Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Amy. I travel pretty much full time while creating content, and today I'm going to talk to you about my experience of going to the Corcovado National Park, which is along the Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica. And for a little context right before I jump into it, if you don't know me already, I am usually based in the UK when I'm in between travels, and I was just in Drake Bay hosting my second group trip in Costa Rica, and it was such a good time. I spent 8 nights there, I believe, and it was such a good group. We had an amazing experience. I could dive into everything we did around Drake Bay if you want to see that in another video. But yeah, it was overall amazing, and that's why I was in Costa Rica to begin with. Also, it was just so cool working on the sustainable farm, Finca Ganadito. It was just a really cool experience and the girls loved it, so I think I might be hosting trips there in the future. If you want to be notified about future group trips, make sure you're following me on Instagram because I post there whenever I have a group trip coming up. So the Corcovado National Park is often referred to as the most biodiverse place in the world, which is crazy. It's made up of a primary and a secondary forest, and if you're there for the day, you'll most likely just be going to the secondary forest and hiking around there. From San Jose, you can either fly or drive over to Drake Bay. I chose to fly. It was a really tiny plane that only fits 12 people, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit scary. I felt like I was gonna pee myself when we were flying over, but on the way back it wasn't as bad because I knew what to expect. However, it is the best option, I think, because the views are amazing, like truly spectacular views, and it only takes about 45 minutes instead of driving for about 6 hours to get to Drake Bay. When you get to Drake Bay, you'll have to book a tour. The tour we did cost, I think, $105 US, if I'm correct. And you can pay in cash in USD or in Costa Rican colones. You can also pay with card if you want. However, there's a 13% tax on that, or like additional fee that you'd have to pay if you're using your card, so just be aware of that because it does kind of add up. From Drake Bay, they'll pick you up really early in the morning around 7 a.m. to take an hour boat ride over to the national park. It's going to be a wet landing and entry, which just means you're going by boat, so you're going to get wet, which means you should definitely bring sandals or wear sandals, and make sure you're wearing shorts because I was wearing long pants to try to avoid the bugs, and when I got off, half of my pants were wet, so I don't recommend doing that. You can bring some clothes to change into in a backpack, and if you're like me and you get seasick, make sure you're sitting at the very back of the boat. I thought sitting at the front would be good because in a car that's what I usually do, but it's the opposite, 2 cars. So I was sitting at the front. It was really bumpy for basically the entire way, and I felt super seasick. It was honestly a struggle, so make sure you're sitting at the back if you get sick. When you get there, the tour guide will direct you, and they're really great, but they will take you to sign in, and security will look through your backpack or whatever you have with you to make sure you don't have food, because you can't bring that into the park, and single-use plastic. So make sure you don't have anything like that with you when you enter, or they'll throw it away. And I would definitely also bring a towel to wipe down your feet before you put shoes on, and of course a change of shoes and socks, because it's just a lot better to be hiking around in that, especially when there's lots of bugs and mosquitoes. So that's just the best way in my opinion. It does get really hot, so I changed into shorts, and I preferred being in shorts and just sprayed myself down with bug spray. You can spray yourself with bug spray and sunscreen, but they are pretty strict about where you can do it. You can only really do it when you first enter on the beach. They'll make you move if you're trying to put it on in the park because apparently it can be harmful to the different species that are there. When you actually go into the park and start the tour, it's about 4 hours long, and they call it a hike, but it's not really a hike. It's on flat ground. So I did go into it thinking, oh, okay, it's going to be really easy. And it's not like it's difficult, and you don't really realize how much you're walking. But by the end of it, you are really tired. I checked how many steps and kilometers I walked, and I walked 20 kilometers, and you don't really realize it because you're just looking up the whole time, looking at the trees, trying to find animals, also looking down a little bit sometimes to see what's on the floor or the ground. But yeah, my neck was actually hurting a little bit throughout the day since we were constantly like this, and I had my camera trying to get good shots. So as I said, we hiked in the secondary forest. You can hike in the primary forest, but I think that only happens for trips that go overnight, and there's limited number of people who can get a permit to stay overnight, so I didn't end up going there, and I don't know what the experience would be like there. However, you do see a lot of animals in the secondary forest. One of the first animals we saw was a sloth, which was really exciting, but it was super high up in the trees and it sleeps most of the day, and we were there in the morning when it was sleeping with its back turned to us, so it kind of just looked like a nest when we saw it through binoculars, but it was really cool to see. Like, the fact that there was a sloth there is pretty sick. And we saw some birds, and then we made our way into the forest and we started to see lots of monkeys. Most of the monkeys we saw were spider monkeys and howler monkeys. I'll put some footage because they were so cool to see. It was one of my favorite parts of the day. It was seeing these monkeys so up close. We ended up seeing a lot of different birds. I don't remember the names, and we also saw a pig-like animal. It was some sort of mammal that was sleeping. I also can't really remember the name of it. It was an animal I've never even heard of in my life before. And that was cool to see because it was like a really big animal walking around this park, but we just saw it sleeping and we saw its back. So once again, it wasn't like as exciting as seeing monkeys climbing the trees and swinging from branch to branch. We actually saw two monkeys like kind of fighting, and one of them fell, like dropped an insane amount, and I think it ended up being okay, but it was like really interesting seeing that happen as well. Eventually you end up stopping for lunch in this kind of hut that's near an airport. They said it was an airport. It was like a little tiny landing strip, and they served food to everyone there. It was a typical Costa Rican lunch, but I will say, because it was served to the masses, it was not very good. Our whole group was like, this isn't really the best, but we were super hungry, so we ate what was there. And then we went on for another hour or so to round off the day. Eventually we got back and we took a boat from the national park back to Drake Bay around 1 p.m. And on the way back, we ended up seeing dolphins, so that was really cool. They'll keep an eye out, and if you see dolphins or if they see dolphins, they'll stop and help you see it so you can get some photos and videos, and that was really nice. After doing the experience and having other experiences in and around Drake Bay, I thought to myself, was the experience worth it? If I was on the fence, would I do it? And honestly, I have to say I would not do it again. This is mostly because I thought we would see a lot more than we actually did see. Of course, I love that we got to see monkeys up close and really cool trees and other smaller animals, but I was really expecting that we would see a lot more variation, especially considering that it's supposed to be the most biodiverse place in the world. Of course, the guide was super knowledgeable and he would point things out, which was great. Like, he was on the lookout for animals and he did a great job.
This one does photosynthesis with the bark. So he is photosynthetic. So he peels off. You see, he peels off because he does photosynthesis. So he can be in an exposed area. You can cut the forest down and you can plant these trees that there is only sunlight there, and he is gonna be doing great because he's gonna be doing photosynthesis with all the structure. When there is no sunlight,
not so good.
No photosynthesis, right? No chemical reaction. So you can see, and this one right here, this one, you see he's not doing so well.
Yeah.
But you see this one is doing better. So he decided to cancel this branch pretty much because there was not enough light around.
Oh.
And he gave more energy to this one. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Now you see up there at the very top, he's very red and the peel is falling off constantly. And in some trees, they are really, really exposed. There will not be even peel because it's coming so fast off, right?
Wow.
But where it doesn't come off, where it doesn't get sunlight, over here, right here, you see this?
Mm-hmm.
This is moss. There is algae. You see here this, right? This is because this area or this part of the tree hasn't done photosynthesis for a really long time.
Okay.
So it's giving chance to the plants to climb on it and to, you know.
So it might have just been a case of going on a day where there wasn't that many animals kind of out and about, but it was a bit disappointing. Of course, it really depends on your interest if you're going to think whether or not it's worth it. For me, I personally loved going snorkeling to the Kenyo Islands instead, and that was around $95, so it was a little bit cheaper, and we saw like turtles swimming, sharks, and so many other animals underwater, and I just really enjoyed that experience a lot more personally. But I spoke to people afterwards, and some people liked the national park more, some people liked the snorkeling more, so I do think it really depends on person to person. I think because it was peak season, I expected we would see a lot, and it's like the dry season there, so it's expected that you're going to see lots of animals because they're running the tours every day there, but it might have just been the day that we went and other days could have been better. I also think the main reason I was a little bit disappointed is because we've already seen other animals in the Drake Bay area, and like you can see those animals kind of all over the Oso Peninsula. So the fact that we didn't see anything really that unique other than the sloth in the national park when we had seen some animals already in the Drake Bay area, it was just a bit of a letdown. So if you're on the fence and you don't have a big budget for your trip to Costa Rica, I would say skip it because you can see other animals like around that area, and I would definitely go for snorkeling instead. So this was probably a really quick video on the Corcovado National Park, but I hope it helped you figure out whether or not you'd want to visit if you're going. Let me know if you have been. I'd love to hear what your experience was like. And I'm also a little bit late to posting this video. I usually post my videos on Wednesday, but I've been traveling for the last couple of days to get back to the UK, so apologies on that. But make sure you are subscribed if you want to see weekly videos. I usually post them on Wednesdays unless I can't for whatever reason. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. I appreciate it so much, and I will see you next week for another one. Bye!